So, a recap, there's a Dayton, Ohio police report. These documents, there's 4 of them, October, November, December, and January of 24 and 25, when Kaitlynn was supposed to be in Dayton. Well, actually, she was in Dayton. But the juvenile records, these, all 4 of them, are all dated and certified by Debbie Bennington the day that Derek Moorhead acted as judge. But the case number is a brand new case number, has nothing to do with the original case there. So we've got 2 different case numbers for one juvenile. But anyway, in these documents that showed up that are all certified 11-3, I somehow got these in my paperwork the day I went to court. I don't know how I got them. But I don't know if they think they even know that I have them. But they all do not disclose Dayton at all. It says Finley Schools, twice for Indian blood, if she's part of a tribe. But anyway, going back to the beginning of the case, that was fraud void of negio on perjury by CPS. It said the mother was not, she failed to appear. How in the hell can I appear when the sheriff's department keeps me there and doesn't even tell me that there's court? They didn't even bother to Zoom me or send me to juvenile court so that I could fight for custody of Kaitlynn at the very beginning of the case. So I was denied that. The judge was biased and took CPS's word and heard the false defamation on the news break in the viral video, or not viral, the viral crap that the cop and CPS conspired a story to cover the cop's assault. But anyway, so what we have is void amnesia case for 7 years, and they're continuing to legally abuse me and try to put me in jail and keep Kaitlynn and I apart. They never wanted her to testify against them, and they don't want me to testify against them either. So, help. Like I said, Guernsey County, they've made a fortune off of our pain and suffering. And Ohio has approximately 16,000 kids, and 10 parents a month nationally commit suicide because of the hell that they put people through. I've been arrested 4 separate times throughout this case, legally abused on false charges, including being locked up in jail a month, awaiting a bed to go to the nut ward for 5 months. So, and of course, Kaitlynn's been in and out of mental wards. She's been jailed. She's got a record. She's got a case, $1,300, that she's got to come up with. And what I thought was interesting was when she got this was dated on her birthday, and it says, having reached maximum benefits. What's that mean? So, yeah, 16th birthday, organ donor, 4 or 5 years of nothing but abuse and neglect, and 7 years of deprived rights, and to ever have justice, to have her day in court. In 2023, when I got the court records, when I tried to go back and get her, I actually quit my job and spent the whole month of August of 2023 filing to get custody for her. I put evidence on the record, videos, proof, sheriff complaints, blah, blah, blah. It was all ignored by the Sheriff's Department, CPS, Juvenile Court, County, and State. And in one of the juvenile records, I discovered it says dispose of in 2025. Dispose of what? Dispose of the case? What does that mean? Kaitlynn was threatened if she didn't pay her fine, she'd go to jail. Now, 2/11/2019, a cop assaults me, kidnaps her, and we go through 7 years of tyranny and legal abuse. That fucker's not in jail. But when she spends all these years of abuse and neglect, and she runs away from abusive foster homes that trigger her, that don't take care of her, and a cop caught her when she ran away, and she reached back in the cop car to get my jacket. It was the only thing that she had left of me. She wasn't allowed to speak to me for years on end. She reached in to grab Mom's coat, and the cop grabbed her from behind. She said, "Mommy put his junk on my butt." And of course, she had been raped in foster care, and it startled her. And she just reached around. She blacked out and punched him. She hit him so hard that it knocked his retina out, and he was off work for 5 days. Now, she's got a felony for popping a cop, but yet the cop that kidnapped her and all these agents that have terrorized us and deprived us of our rights and caused pain and suffering, they're all walking free. They've enjoyed their lives for the past 7 years, while Kaitlynn and I and Grandma have been denied that. And can't give... My mom's gone. And her brother's gone. You can't replace that. On 12/15, I was ordered, well, on 12/1 of 2025, in this case of obstruction of justice and interference of custody for protecting Kaitlynn from Dayton and all the foster care abuse. Judge Williams ordered me to have an competency evaluation. She won't look at anything on the record until I get that competency evaluation, even though I've proved to her with records that I just have post-traumatic stress disorder, and I've got a federally certified legal abuse diagnosis from an ADA advocate. She's ignoring that. And that adjustment disorder that the probation officer ordered me when I first went in the court, she's ignoring that. So their motive is to get District 9 to say again, like he did before, she's incompetent. Like he said, she doesn't trust the government and she suspects Rico. Facts are facts. On 12/15, I'd planned on getting a independent competency evaluation. But on 12/15, my mother, she fell and broke her hip at the home. I've been her 24/7 caregiver. So, being her health proxy and power of attorney, which means I'm competent, Mom was transferred to Ohio Health Grant Hospital in Columbus, fighting for her life. The hospital had her medical records and prescriptions. They had to list. The doctors ignored the instructions for her Xanax, which was prescribed as a baseline medicine for her by her lung doctor for anxiety and to help her breathe. The doctors didn't give it to her. She was taken off of it for several days, and she started to AFib with cardiac issues from the sudden withdrawals. That's what it does. Well, instead of putting her back on her Xanax, they gave her Midodrine. My research on Midodrine, it destroys your kidneys, and it's hard to expel it from your body. A heart medicine, it causes kidney failure, what it does. Once they put Mom back on her Xanax, she's stabilized, and I work closely with a very large trauma team, heart, pulmonary, neurology, orthopedic. They all approved her to get her hip surgery. And she was upgraded and approved for her hip surgery. She had sepsis that was at 54,000 when she went in on the 15th, but she got it down. They got it down to 16,000. When they upgraded her, they gave me a list of nursing homes to put her in after her hip surgery. I was in Columbus most of the time with Mom. So, and it's about an hour and a half each way to get to Columbus. And so I spent a lot of time out there with Mom. So I was busy with that, trying to file stuff for the courts, plus also deal with, I couldn't talk to Kaitlynn, so I had to go around friends to ensure that Kaitlynn was being taken care of. She was having a lot of issues that were very concerning. So at the end of December, when Mom was approved, on 12/31/25, I was ordered by Judge Stephanie Williams to have that incompetency evaluation done and on her desk. Well, at 12 o'clock, I'd been tied up for the past 2 weeks with an emergency with my mom, so I stopped at the Cambridge Municipal Court to file requested continuance on the incompetency evaluation, but the court closed. So I emailed the probation officer and the forced standby attorney, who has done nothing for me, and including not even giving me the discovery. But standby attorneys that are forced, they're not supposed to help you. So I don't understand what they're for. But anyway, throughout the months, I filed several filings throughout the course of affidavits, exhibits, laws being federally protected about not taking a incompetency evaluation because the doctor could disable me because of his opinion, thinking that I'm incompetent because I suspect RICO. The judge ignored my exhibits, mental health on the record, post-traumatic stress disorder, the federally certified abuse syndrome, legal abuse syndrome. This was a complete waste of taxpayers' money. Actually, the past 7 years have been in our lives, and my precious time denied with my daughter, who aged out of foster care, age 18, but I'm denied any contact with her due to CPS 7-year unlawful custody. At the same time, my daughter's foster mom was refusing to take her to school and forcing her to walking to the Dangerous City bus stop to take her to school. Friends had to send money, and many of you helped her. She was able to get rides to and from school with the Lyft driver. But guess what? A Lyft driver shows up, Venezuelan, on a visa, and lied to her. He said he was 26 years old. He convinced her to move in with him, age 33 years old. It was a hopeless feeling not being able to rescue her because of the no contact order. But I did what any mother would have to do, and I made a lot of calls on the back and had to have friends reach out to her and help her because they had my phone surveillance, and if I would have got popped, I'd have been in jail. Someone did rescue her. Now, when I was at the hospital, in and out of the hospital, Ohio Health Grant Trauma, there were a lot of organs going in and going out of that place. I just couldn't believe it. Fun fact, I guess it's not a fun fact, but a fact that I never thought about: when you donate your organs, your skin is taken, and your hands and your face is shown at the funeral home. But on 2026, after my mom was upgraded, she was sent up to the 7th floor to get her weight count down from 16,000 to get her hip surgery and off to a nursing home for recovery. Due to the good news, I took a few days off at home to rest and work on the frivolous municipal charges of interference of custody and obstruction of justice for protecting my daughter from documented abuse of several years and potential trafficking. Dayton is one of the biggest trafficking places in Ohio. There's 78 78 of those homes down there, is what I was told. The hospital called and said my mother was AFibing again the first week of January. Instantly, I asked if she was taken off of her Xanax baseline for her lungs. It was discovered they did it again for several days, causing my frail mother to go backwards because they didn't follow the charts. So they did it to her twice in about 2 weeks' time, causing her severe cardiac issues and withdrawals from her meds. And then they give her midodrine again, which causes kidney failure, and it's hard to expel from the body. And the reason I picked up on that baseline was back in April of 25 at our local Cambridge, Ohio Health. Mom went in, and what happened was she took a gummy. They had advertised it for her lungs on TV, and she thought, well, I'll try it. And she took a gummy, and it sent her to the hospital back in April. And it didn't dawn on us at the time, but 3 days into it, mom started going downhill really bad. And I started questioning why. And here Ohio Health took her off her baseline heart and lung meds, causing her to go downhill. There should be a law against doctors taking patients off of baseline medicine that their doctors prescribe to keep these people living. What gives the hospital rights to take their baseline meds away and cause other issues and cause these people to die? Each time while in Columbus, the house was broken into 3 different times. The doctor told me that my mother on 1/7, so within a week of being upgraded, she's going to get her hip surgery. I walked into, nope, your mom's dying. Hip surgery's off the table. How could that be so? Twice they sent her backwards by not denying her baseline and giving her midodrine that causes more problems. I found my mother, when I walked in, my mother's feces bag was taken off of her. She was laying in feces that got into her urinary catheter that gave her a severe UTI. And the feces was in her spinal bed sore that I discovered the next day. This caused her UTI and weight count to jump to 32,000. I demanded that she be taken back down to CCU. Mom had 3 inches of blood in her suction cup, which she didn't have at any other time. I asked the orderly, and he's like, I don't know, it's been there for a couple of days. And he did not, on 1/8, so when I asked for them to go get her back down to CCU, we discovered that Mom was internally bleeding. So she must have been bleeding for a couple of days, and they had to give her immediately 3 sutures. The kidney doctor said if she didn't receive kidney dialysis immediately, she would die within 48 hours. She was 98% toxic, and she was given Narcan. Why? The night before, Nurse Jeff gave my mother Xanax and hydrocodone at the same time. Now, I know, and doctors tell you to give them 2 hours apart. Well, he gave them to her at the same time. In addition to the tailbone bed sore discovery, the nurse discovered under my mother's matted hair a wound the size of the palm of your hand with a dime-sized infected hole. This was not there a week earlier before they moved her upstairs and denied her baseline meds and caused her to AFib again. Mom was put on continuous dialysis for 3 days. Nurse Larry was with Mom her last 2 days in the third floor CCU before she died after 33 days at Ohio Health, Grant Hospital, Columbus. He said, I was on the 7th floor when she was brought down. He told me to pray to my deity. Mom passed away at 2 a.m. Larry said he came from a totalitarian military family and he was married to a CPS agent. Why did he verbalize? He was concerned. 10 years in practice and I've never been in court. What was he concerned about? I spent the rest of the month fulfilling my duties as health proxy for my mom, requesting medical records. In addition to that, taking care of mother's affairs and funeral arrangements. Of course, it was difficult to find a lawyer to take Mom's case, and it still is, as well as my own. 7-year unconstitutional deprivation of rights and crimes against humanity. My mother was buried on February 17th. While my mother lay dying a premature death via medical negligence, Kaitlynn and I were denied to be together bedside with my mother, Grandma Betty. Only because of Guernsey County Common Pleas Court Judge Stephanie Williams' bogus no-contact order and from the bogus arrest for protecting her at the Helen foster care in Dayton. The key is they never had jurisdiction. The rest is RICO fraud, while a disabled mother, widow, and orphan paid the price. During this time, Kaitlynn was rescued from the home of the 33-year-old Venezuelan Lyft driver who took her to and from school because a foster mom took the other kids to school but not her, forcing her to walk to the dangerous bus stop alone. The Lyft driver lied to her. I already told you that. Mom passed away. I had someone I thought I could trust come forward and convince Kaitlynn to leave him. This person took advantage of Kaitlynn. I'm not allowed to talk to my daughter. But this person left my daughter abandoned at a hotel in Columbus. And somebody rescued her again. This was in January. So at this point, with everything that's going on between Kaitlynn and Mom and trying to get Mom's medical records, I had to request them 3 times. Stuff come up missing, and I finally did get the 1,400 pages of medical records, but it's interesting that the week that Mom went downhill and they said she was dying, a total 360 from a week before from CCU saying she'll get her hip surgery, nursing home, she'll be right. So I never got the bogus incompetency evaluation, and my ADA rights protects me from them forcing me to get this incompetency evaluation. I know what they're after. They want to lock me up. And of course, you know, if I'm locked up, Mom's property is wide open. I was occupied with Mom 12:15 to 1:18. As Mom's power of attorney and health proxy, trying to keep Mom alive through friends and keep Kaitlynn safe and protect my birthplace, childhood home, Mom and Dad's property of 60 plus years. The home that we as a family took trees and timbered, and it only cost us $17,000 to build it. I spent the rest of my life painting and decorating, caring, landscaping the place. My beautiful mother and son are buried on our property, side by side, with a space for me in between. Mom and Josh died 17 months apart. My father and my brother's ashes are on the property. As Mom's power of attorney, I made a contract to protect the family property, selling it with contingencies. Now, if the court forced me into competency and their doctor says I don't trust the government and that I'm incompetent, Mom loses her property to possibly have Judge Bennett, the probate judge that denied me due process in the beginning and silenced me the whole way through the juvenile court because I had false pending charges, criminal charges by CPS and the cops, later acquitted. But yeah, anyway, the legal abuse syndrome, the legal abuse continues. Is a property what they wanted after all these years, keeping me spinning in courts, fighting for justice with the illusion that I would get it. I'd love to get the audit and the hours that the agents have charged on this case and how much money they've made since February 11, 2019 on the fake criminal charges, fake child support, bonds, and God only knows what else. It's quite interesting. You have no constitutional rights. We will take everything you have, life, liberty, happiness, freedom, your children, your mother, your property, and you will own nothing, and you will do as I say. At least that's my experience. My beloved mother, Betty Larrick, Grandma Betty, was buried on February 17th. Now we have law director, attorney Frederick Sealover, who is forcing the judge to do the competency evaluation, which is against all my rights, saying she's got mental problems. The same attorney screwed up my son at the age of 19. There were two young men that had the same charges. One of them was the drug dealer that gave my son my son got drugs off of, and they both did a stupid crime. My son got a court-appointed public pretender, which was Frederick Sealover, the one that's trying to put me in the nut word. And the drug dealer had enough money to hire an attorney. He got rehab. My son Joshua, at the age of 19, got put in prison, and he was gang raped by killers. Destroyed his life. As part of that, he's been in and out of ABH, Athens Behavioral Health. I can't imagine what he's gone through. But while he was down there, they put him on Haldol. And just before he died, he was having trouble because the Haldol was too much of a high dose. And after the autopsy said it was fentanyl and some other drugs, possibly. But also, we looked up in Haldol in 2012, it was 270,000 sudden deaths out of 1 million people that were on Haldol. These are ADA, legally abused syndrome diagnosis that in this case Judge Williams ignored, and then also Judge Padden ignored when I was sent to the mental ward so they could steal custody of Kaitlynn to keep us silenced. These are other diagnoses that the judges have ignored. But guess what? This is Dr. Reasoner. Now they want to send me into this District 9 Dr. Reasoner. It says, the defendant made accusations that Dr. Reasoner characterized as somewhat bizarre, stating there must be some type of RICO conspiracy going on within the system. The defendant appeared to be under much stress, and her paranoid demeanor continued through the interview. Dr. Reasoner spent approximately 1 hour with the defendant in the waiting room before the defendant consented not to record the interview. I wasn't allowed to record my interview. So he got me. It said she was pervasively suspicious of the legal system. So with what he said, okay, to Judge Padden, I lost everything. Lost my daughter, freedom, and it cost the taxpayers $800 a day for 5 months just to shut me up so they can get custody. And at the time, Judge Padden did not have his oath of office at the Supreme Court when I was indicted. He did later, though. So, at that time, when I got probated to the mental ward, juvenile Judge David Bennett, he serves as juvenile and probate. He denied me due process day one, which makes the case completely avoid amnesia, along with the perjury and deprivation of rights in the golf assault. He silenced me in juvenile court due to false pending criminal charges. He denied all evidence, exhibits. He denied me. I tried to address my grievances. I was denied that. Judge Bennett probated me to Appalachian Behavioral Health to be restored to competency to stand trial on CPS false felony charges. Caseworker said I threatened her. I was facing 5 years in prison on aggravated menacing charges. They were acquitted. Let's see, I got charged on 7/20/21, and then I got charged on 7/31/2020, and then I got acquitted in a jury trial 9/16/2022. That's how long it took me to get justice. But guess what? Day 1, 8/2020, Detective Bill Patterson had access to the video that made me innocent, but he never collected it. And now he's arresting me on obstruction of justice and interference of custody. And I still wonder if he's related to Robert Oakley Patterson, that probated his name to Oakley. Wait, I thought you said I would... Okay, so back to 7/21/2021, when Judge Bennett probated me to the mental ward. 2 weeks later, while at the Appalachian Behavior, I was denied to appear in a permanency trial hearing in person. I sent all kind of paperwork, to prove there was nothing wrong with me. And I even sent it to the JAG. So we've been sending stuff all along. But I was denied to appear into the permanency trial hearing. So Judge Bennett forced me to Zoom from Appalachian Behavioral Health Care as incompetent. But wait a minute. If I was forced to Zoom to juvenile court as competent, but they put me in the nut ward as incompetent to stand trial, how does that work? I have transcripts from the caseworker that day that said I did not abuse or neglect my kids, but I was powerless. I couldn't do anything. I had no paperwork. The attorney never got a hold of me. Nothing. I was placed there long enough to lose custody and my appeal, thanks to appellate attorney Andrew Russ, 7/12/2021 until 12/4/2021. I was listed as unspecified diagnosis through 11/2021 until I mentioned Senator Nancy Schaefer outing CPS for trafficking. And then they all of a sudden changed my diagnosis to delusional. Yeah. The cover-up of this case cost the taxpayers $800 a day to deny our rights and torture us. Judge Daniel Padden and Executive Director of ABH, Brian Warren, signed a document stating Dr. Jeannine Larrick to administer up to 30 different meds to Jeannine Larrick. Dr. Jeannine Larrick to administer up to 30 meds to Jeannine Larrick. Judge Daniel Padden and the executive director, Brian Warren, signed off on that. Who's the incompetent one now? Now, that exhibit was sent to a stranger, which means the courts violated my HIPAA rights. There was a young man there, Dale. He was walking around drooling all the time. I felt so bad for him. He was only about 19. At the mental ward, the place was full of patriots, retaliated patriots, and stuff written all over the sheets about what some of the government agents did to these people. I asked the orderly what virusware that the state used, and he said McAfee. Hi, John! I filed many papers, and it was all ignored through the juvenile courts. There was a patient there from Cambridge, Ohio. He was addicted to heroin. The poor guy was walking around eating toilet paper. Now, it just makes me think about the doctor that put me into the mental ward that said I suspected RICO and I was incompetent, that I didn't trust the government. He was a co-defendant under the same judge, Padden, for heroin trafficking. But the case got closed and he's still a doctor? What's up with that? I'd like to know. I wore the soles off my shoes walking the floor, but thank God for K-Love on my iPod. Come out of the mental ward, and I filed an unrebutted affidavit and claim. It's still unrebutted. And then, of course, I did my enjoinder of 88 counties for the whole entire state. It's not just about me, and it's not about the money. It's about the people and the children. I need some help. And then, of course, here's my acquittal. They tried to put me in prison for 5 years because a caseworker said I threatened her. Always record. Never trust them. They usurped the Constitution by ignoring all of our claims, exhibits, and evidence. Since my case started, how Governor DeWine made a new law that police departments can charge up to $750 for a cop cam evidence video that taxpayers have already paid for. How in the hell can somebody get justice that way? It takes the county hours to edit and cover up crimes against we the people. Poor targeted individuals do not have a chance. A key video is the cop assault, which is in my exhibits. And also, I have the video cop cam of CPS Amanda Kennedy, that's buddies. She kept calling him Robbie, the cop that assaulted me, in her statement when she said I threatened her. She's laughing on the cop cam, stating, ha ha ha, Jeannine doesn't know it yet, but she's never getting her kids back. She knew a year in advance that if she filed these false felony charges that I would lose custody. She knew a year in advance. And she was right. So it was premeditated. She lied. She said I had no income. But they destroyed my livelihood, my self-employment career, destroyed me in the newspaper. And while I was going through all this, I had around $10,000 racked up in COVID pandemic unemployment. I'm still waiting. There's other Ohioans that are still waiting on it too. Mike DeWine's holding it back. Another thing that Mike DeWine did, our governor, cops are allowed to change their names and hide it from the public. An old search of Robert Patterson had drug charges in Illinois, since scrubbed from the internet. But he came to Guernsey County and probated his name to Robert Oakley. Ohio, I saw reports where they're using the cannabis taxes for more police surveillance. I do have exhibit videos of a 20-year veteran cop quitting with Cambridge in front of the council. Chris Gebhardt. He's had a lot of retaliation and threats. Good man. 20 years on the police force, but due to corruption on the force and threats, and he stood up there and said that the prosecutors and the regime was corrupt. He got nowhere. Now he's being retaliated. He said he made reports with Ohio BCI, FBI, state. Got nowhere. Another example, Jimmy. We got videos of Jimmy being beaten by the same deputy, Robert Oakley Patterson. We got videos of a cop walking up to Jimmy in the jail, being beaten and bloodied. The same administration tried to keep Philadelphia Josh Sills from the Super Bowl in 2023. Women inmates are, this is crazy. The women inmates are given gauze, see-through, hunter orange underwear, and hunter brown bras. Correction officer from the state was a bunkmate, and she starved herself for 10 days. She refused to eat the food because she said, I know what's in it. A former Guernsey County sheriff made the New York Times in prison years ago. A girl that I was in jail with, she said that her grandfather came over. He was a Nazi, and he became the sheriff years ago. I'd have to investigate on that one, but this is true, the news reports, the former law director, Andy Rocker, shot and killed his wife while in office. Or did he? I don't know. So anyway, I'm not the criminal here. All agents listed herein had knowledge and evidence of my claims, but chose to ignore them, retaliate, and they chose to retaliate with more charges. They never had jurisdiction on a 2/11/19 void case. Every one of them had knowledge, because I told everybody. They're misprisoned of a felony for not protecting our rights and reporting crimes against us or investigating our claims. All agents covered up the claims by conspiring and working the narrative that I was crazy and had mental problems. Agents retaliated against Kaitlynn and I both throughout the case, denying our rights to ever be heard, denied due process, denied speedy trials. In effect, we had ineffective attorneys, not given exculpatory evidence. They usurped our constitutional rights for emoluments and to keep us silenced. We were judicially raped. Kaitlynn and I have been denied ever to address our grievances and get justice, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All evidence on record has been ignored and stricken from the record. She is stuck in the foster care system for 7 years. She's out, but she's not allowed to talk to me because of these bogus charges. We have been denied. Every time we speak to protect ourselves, we get retaliated against by our agents on our tax dollars. I have a prima facie case of retaliation on steroids. This is a proven void amnesia case, full of false charges, perjured complaints, fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. I got cop cam, all kind of stuff. Crimes against humanity and usurping constitution, almost like an army of foreign agents out of uniform. Our lives did stop 2/11/2019 and have been destroyed. All Kaitlynn has known has been pain and suffering and grief. These agents that they're supposed to serve and protect destroyed this little girl, and it's going to take years if we can ever heal her. As with many Ohio cases, family kin is denied. CPS denied many qualified family members and friends. My mom, Grandma Betty, was approved in 2021, but CPS turned around and changed their mind because they decided they wanted to adopt her out through Wendy's Wonderful Hamburgers, the Wonderful Kids. I even had a veteran that's gone through 5 years, or 5 wars, that wanted, a naval officer, William Weiss, wanted to help me out and get Kaitlynn when I went through these legal charges. They denied him. He desperately needs a med bed. 5-war veteran desperately needs one. When I did a campaign on Facebook, Help Me Go Home, I was threatened via messenger that Kaitlynn would be trafficked in Louisiana with Dallas ties. I've got all kind of links, evidence, perjured, no due process by Judge Bennett. I wasn't even there. I was still in jail. So, I'm going to go a little backwards here, but going back to how this all started, I was in my home, minding my own business, me and the kids. We were painting that week, and I got a knock at the door, and CPS and the deputy, they refused to let me speak. They gaslit me. So instead of letting me talk and show my lawful superintendent homeschool records that were approved, they kept trying to get me all wound up. But being a victim of domestic violence, I sat down to diffuse them. As I sat down, I said, this is not a free country. And the cop, Robert Oakley Patterson, come over and slammed his hands down at the table, starts yelling and screaming at me. And in the video, I stood up and I said, you will respect me in my home. And he came around that table, 220 pounds against my 130, and pushed me in a big oak pedestal table 8 foot into the corner. We'd have kept on going. Kaitlynn saw it all. But that's why they've kept us apart, and that's why they never let her come to court, even though I subpoenaed her. I don't know how the courts and CPS and the cops and the attorneys and the judges can all get away with crimes. But if we fart, I don't know. It's a crazy world. So anyway, I was falsely arrested and put in jail. They zoomed me on to municipal court on false pending criminal charges, but didn't zoom me or get me to juvenile. So that case is completely void, but it's also full of fraud, conspiracy to cover up the cop assault, deprivation of rights, denied due process by Judge Bennett. He was biased by the false viral charges online and media that the Guernsey County Sheriff did to cover the assault charges. Look here, not there. He believed the perjury complaint and testimony of CPS Nicole Caldwell, which she got promoted to executive director. The CPS worker that pulled the false charges on me, that tried to put me in prison, she got promoted to adoption. But prior to that, her personnel records, she got fired. But now she's got promoted to adoption. And the 3 juvenile attorneys, one was my attorney, the child attorney, and then my ex-husband's attorney, they're all in the prosecuting attorney's office now. And of course they, protecting everything. But Judge Bennett, he was biased from the beginning. He refused to let me speak in court because of the false pending criminal charges. He refused to recuse himself from the void amnesio case. The case is full of conspiracy cover-up. Judge Bennett probated me to the mental ward, and then 2 weeks later took custody. Permanent custody. I won my jury trial, so I was acquitted of 2.5 years of legal hell because the caseworker said I threatened her. So Kaitlynn and I really suffered during that time. It's been a hell of a 7-year. Judge Bennett denied me ever to address my grievances. But, so when he took custody on 2/11, I got assaulted, got arrested. The next day, Judge Bennett denied due process. CPS perjured a complaint, saying I threw stuff at her, which I didn't. She was covering for the cop. I got out, and 3 days later, I was at CPS visiting my kids. And Kaitlynn, our favorite thing to do was we would binge on Law and Order. And Kaitlynn, we're in the CPS lounge, and she says, "Hey, Mom, look." She says, "There's a heater like you got charged for." It was one of those little safety shut-off heaters that we had in the home. They were brand new safety shut-off heaters. We were having trouble with our furnace, but it was 70 degrees in the house, and they were safety shut-off heaters. But I got charged with endangering. So when Kaitlynn pointed out that the CPS was endangering all those kids going through the CPS lounge, I thought, well, charge me. So I called and made a report to the sheriff's department. Hey, you guys charge me. Come up here and charge CPS. Well, that was probably the wrong thing to do, because they sent the damn cop, Robert Oakley Patterson, that attacked me 4 days earlier. So he took the report, and the CPS worker that was with him that perjured and covered up for him was in the cop cam video telling him, "Hey, she was arrested a few days ago. She's on probation. She's causing problems." So I got arrested again. I was put in jail for another week, and Judge John Nicholson let me out, and the jailer, Chad Kearns, demanded that I sign this paperwork to pay, that I would agree to pay $50 a day to be in jail. And I refused to sign that paperwork. I'm not paying $50 to be in jail every day. And so he said, well, fine. He put me back in jail for another week, and then I got out. On 4/1, April Fool's Day, CPS agent Nicole Stillion Caldwell, that was lied about the cop assault and perjured, and that caused me to get rearrested because I was on probation because of their crimes originally from the assault. On April Fool's Day, Nicole Caldwell, Stillion Caldwell, awarded the assaulting cop, Robert Oakley Patterson, an award for protecting children. So on 2/11, he assaulted me, kidnapped my kids, deprived me of my rights, conspired against me with her. 2/11, 2/15, and then she awards him on April Fool's Day. 5/23. Oh, let me back up. My attorney, Mark Perlacki, he was my attorney from the beginning. He had the cop cam assault. He had my homeschool records, which were approved by law. That's all I needed. He had everything that I could have my kids back immediately because it's a void amnesio case in the crimes against us. Well, instead of that, on 5/23, He prosecuted me in juvenile court. Had absolutely no defense for me. And he led CPS and he led the cops on the stand. He didn't put my homeschool records. He didn't put anything on the record at all. And the child attorney, Jennifer Zayer, she wouldn't speak to me. Both of those guys got promoted as assistant prosecuting attorneys. The juvenile caseworker, Cheryl Gadd, she would not assist Kaitlynn or me. Same with guardian ad litem Ruth Weaver. Attorney Adam Johnson, public pretender, never met him. He filed a motion on my behalf, without my knowledge, to withdraw my request for Judge Bennett to recuse himself. I never approved of that. He never saw me. He never had a defense for me. Then I was put in a mental ward. But on the false municipal charges that were given to me on 211 and 215 to cover the cops and CPS corruption, I was denied speedy trials from 211 2019 to 6/20/20. Denied speedy trials in the best interest of a child. But you know what? That was long enough to qualify for the Clinton Safe Family Act and removal adoption bonuses. Then, of course, along comes Mike DeWine and does the COVID pandemic worldwide shutdown, and the whole entire world homeschooled. But that's why they took my kids. I finally got cleared of those charges, and I think I ended up with a disorderly, because I fell apart. On 7/14 juvenile court, I was supposed to be working on getting my kids back since I got cleared of the criminal charges. And I reported that Kaitlynn was being abused and starved and neglected at Brittany Stroop's there in Coshocton. It seemed like every journey home NIAP foster care that she was in since 2020, she did not have good experiences. Neglect, mental abuse, starvation, anyway. So I had that court hearing on 7/14/2020, but because I reported that abuse and neglect, that court case, or that court date, got taken away. And then, of course, CPS Amanda Kennedy on 7/31/2020 said that I threatened her. She didn't know I had a video rolling to prove my innocence. But Detective Patterson never collected it. 3 different times. Emails, audio, and personal acknowledgement. I got an audio where he acknowledged the video. But his derelict of duty. And then he rearrests me recently. Patterson. Judge Bennett, on 8/20, Judge Bennett silenced me in juvenile court on false pending charges by CPS. I was denied to counsel with my children. They had intentions all along to take permanent custody of my children. On 8, so anyway, I went to the nut ward. I lost custody. And then I came back, did the unrebutted affidavit and claim on the record. I did the enjoinder, and then I won my jury trial. So I went back to court, paid $175 to try to get my daughter back. Filed everything, exhibits, videos, YouTube. There's all kind of evidence that, is not in Kaitlynn's best interest. To still be in foster care, being bounced, I think 17, 18 different places, mental wards, juvenile detention, totally misunderstood child that was traumatized and knew the truth from day one, but they silenced her and retaliated against her, and I think they tried to fracture her. She had several years of behavioral teachers, and at one point she was hypnotized. In the juvenile records in 2023 that I found, it said behavioral modification through National Youth Alliance program. Why not give the kid justice? This is a picture of Kaitlynn. This was her Facebook page. Life is great when you get a chance to live it. This poor child, her childhood completely stolen. But despite of it all, she wants to be a residential group homeowner. But in one of the YouTubes, in the shorts, there's a foster guy that they called him Ken. CPS called it Ken on the paperwork. But he's throwing stuff and refuses to get out of her room because she was naked. And I got pictures where he dropped her off alongside the road. He left the kid alongside the road and drove off. At this time, Supervisor Casey Cole, she was said to have, Kaitlynn was her only case. Why was Kaitlynn her only case? Throughout the Dayton ordeal in 2024, she ignored Kaitlynn's eye. When Kaitlynn got her concussion, her eyes were changing color, and for at least 7 or 8 days, she did nothing to see that Kaitlynn got to get her concussion taken care of. And Casey is listed on the fraudulent juvenile entries that appeared on 11/3, the day that Attorney Derek Moorhead showed up to play judge. So she knowingly, being a part of this, has committed fraud proven in the juvenile records that's covering up Kaitlynn not being in Dayton. Several times Casey ignored Kaitlynn's claims of abuse, food neglect, and basic neglect. And so did CPS Amanda Kennedy. Juvenile records stated that Kaitlynn was in behavior modification. She, in 2020, mental and food neglect. Sandra Pip, physical abuse and mental abuse. Karen Hunter and Kent forced Kaitlynn to get a COVID shot against her wishes at a church, and Karen pocketed $100. Kaitlynn was forced many shots, flu shots she didn't want, and other shots. She was forced a birth control chip. I've got exhibits of malnutrition, major weight loss. There again, she was allowed to be an organ donor at 16, inspired by a blind author that's sponsored by Straker Foundation, that's also intertwined with attorney Derek Moorhead out of Zanesville, that acted as judge to deny my jury trial. The clerk, Debbie Bennington, she took my homeschool records off the record and sent them back to me. Took my money for my ex parte and never give me a court date. And in the false juvenile records dated 11/3/2025, that covered up. They're saying that she was in Findlay and Lima instead of Dayton, Ohio last year. Kaitlynn's letter to the judge, it was copied. The clerk Bennington, it was black. No, it was illegible. Kaitlynn's affidavit. Everything that I ever filed was ignored. There's proof of Kaitlynn's malnutrition. Now, here we are. Oh, here's one more thing. This says, under the 1997 Adoption and Safe Families Act, thanks to Clintons, CPS agencies are granted $4,000 to $6,000 for every child that is removed from their home and placed with a stranger. I had 2 children, but somehow I ended up with 4 child support cases. Now here we are, because I saved Kaitlynn from the Dayton hell. I was hiding her out, protecting her, because they wouldn't, because I'd been trying for years, county and state, all agencies. I'm being charged for obstruction of justice and interference of custody. I have a no contact order. I can't even talk to my 18-year-old daughter. They're trying to force an incompetency evaluation on me, which is against my federal rights. They want to lock me up and silence me on a void amnesia case that they never had jurisdiction. So here we are. Everything that I put on the record, they have stricken it from the record. How can they do that? They're saying we're not going to do anything until you get your competency evaluation. How can I do this competency evaluation when District 9 is the only place that they'll do that? He says she doesn't trust the government and she suspects RICO. Facts. So I got put in a nut ward, lost my kids, and here we are. So now, I've asked them repeatedly to cease and desist. They're ignoring it. It's kind of hard to soar like an eagle when you hang around a bunch of turkey vultures. Mike DeWine, you made $800 a day for 5 months while I was in that mental ward. And I came out and got acquitted. And I was in jail for a month waiting in bed. So 6 months of false imprisonment that y'all owe me for. On a void amnesia case. So we got 7 years. Plus I want my $10,000 pandemic unemployment. And what are we going to do about this enjoinder? This is for the people. Quit screwing the server. Judge Stephanie Williams, Municipal Court, Cambridge Municipal Court. Probation Officer Chad Williams. Law Director Attorney Frederick Sealover. Bill Ferguson. Guernsey County Sheriff Jeff Payton. Detective Bill Patterson. You guys need to cease and desist of this continued tyrannical legal abuse of power, usurping the Constitution. You know, cease and desist and drop the charges like you dropped the charges and closed the case of Dr. Reasoner when he got busted being a co-defendant in heroin trafficking. How about that? I demand an investigation on this entire case, as well as an investigation on my mother's premature death and medical negligence and abuse. Pappy Trump, how much longer? It's